Hey, welcome to How to Build Your Own Home. This is Keith and Melissa Kelch talking today. I want to turn yours off. Mute you. Okay, thanks. Had a little reverb there, a little back feed. I want to talk about lending. Does it have you stumped? And questions that you might have. I'm going to go over some kind of the big overall kind of 5,000 foot level. Even got a calculator here. And kind of help you understand kind of what you're looking at. Right now, banks are looking at loan to value, and it used to be that I remember back at some points you could have a 10% down, even a 5% down, and then it would jump back up 15, 20%. And now they're looking to even push that higher. So what does that mean? It's all tied to loan to value, and this is something you really want to watch out for as you're heading into building a home. And even during the process of building your home, if you don't have a construction to permanent loan situation and you're going to get permanent financing later after you build a home, which is a different lending situation, you need to be aware of some stuff. All right. And a lot of it has to do with loan to value. So what is loan to value? Let's say you want to get a loan for $150,000, but the value of the property is $200,000. If it can be verified with some appraisal work and some other factors that will show that that property is 200,000, you're only going to get a loan for 50,000. Then that comes to a 75% loan to value ratio. That means the bank is going to lend, or supposedly is willing to lend up to 75% of the total value of the property. So that would cover the $150,000 loan. Now how do you get value? That's really what you really want to think about, is how do you acquire additional value in the home or property that you are wanting to build in order to improve that loan to value ratio. Meaning, rather than having 20% down, you can come to the bank and show them you've got 22 or 25 or 30 or 40% down. I'm working with a client right now, and he's got 40% down on the property. I mean, on the total build of the home. It's a very pricey home. It's $1.276 million, something around that range. And he's got $340,000 already secured. I mean, he's paid off the property. He's paid the fire fee, the water fee, the power assessment fees, paid the permit, septic permit, all that's been paid. And that came to about $115,000. He bought the property for another $115,000. He paid that off. But now the property alone, unimproved, of course, is now worth $225,000. So he's got the added benefit of having additional equity. So all that came to $340,000, and his loan to value is now at 60%. So what does that mean? That means the bank just needs to lend only 60% of the total valuation of the property. Banks like that. Banks like to loan 40, 50, 60%, maybe 30%, because there's equity. You've got teeth in the game. You're not going anywhere. It's a more secure investment for the bank, given how things are with the market right now. So that's how loan to value works, is you want to try to chip away at that loan to value. So let me talk about what I'm talking about. So the big thing here, I'm going to come to that, but I want to give you a 5,000 foot view of things, what's really going on right now. Right now, home prices generally across the United States are coming down. Okay. They're not just going wild like they were a year and a half ago or even a year ago. They're actually starting to flatline, and they're starting to come down, because that's existing home prices. So that's going to affect the valuation of what you're trying to do, especially new homes. All right. Land prices are coming down. All right. We're not entering a bull run. We're entering a bear market where things are slowing down. And then on top of that, there are fewer building starts. Okay. So that's going to affect your valuation. So what do? If you're going after a loan and all the comparable valuations that are out there that they use to assess the value of the property or land or future build that you want to build, that's kind of, it's going down, it's not going up. That's where you want to try to shoot for, not a 20% loan to value. You want to get down to a 30. What I mean, you want to have more than 20% equity. All right, banks are going to push for more. I've been going through this with a client right now, helping him assess the valuation of his property, giving a bank the budget, showing the bank all the receipts of all the money he's been paying to build this home that he wants to build. And he's been doing it very smart because he's been chunking away at stuff. In fact, I had to call the bank today and say, hey, we actually paid $5,000 for a fire fee. Here's the receipt. Let's take this and add that to the value on his side of the equation, not the debt that the bank is going to give him, but what he's paid against that debt. So he's actually lowering that. So he's increasing his value on his side of the equation. So imagine it as like a double entry accounting where debits and assets, profit and loss is how they look at it in business, but debits versus an assets column. Well, you want to have less debt and more asset in your column. So that's, if you think like that and you're adding assets to the build of your home, this is what you want to do. Acquire the land first. And right now, the next 6 months to a year and a half are going to be a great opportunity to acquire land. I'll let my wife mention some of that as we get further into this. And then of course, there's all these really ridiculous costs that just front load before you even build the home. You really need the money for the framing, the foundation, the excavation. These are big chunk items. Like we're about ready to do some footings for a client. It's $32,000 just for the footings. Now he couldn't really pay that, but he could get the architectural, the structural, the septic, the fire fee, the water fee, the impact fees, the permit fees, all that. He was able to get that over a 6-month period of time. And it took him a year and a half to pay off the land. So now that he's got all that paid off, it's like putting money in a bank almost. It's just incredible value that you're putting into real estate. And then you go to the bank and show them, hey, I've actually paid this, I paid that, and you have all your receipts. Pay in check, don't pay in cash. Make sure you pay these things in check. And then you document that information. So when you go to the bank, and you can add it all up with a calculator and say, here's all that I've put into the property for this build that we're going to do. The neat thing is this is another element of building the stages, but it's building in a way where you're increasing the value that you hold in your hand when you go to the bank. So when you're going to the bank and you barely have 10% equity in cash or possibly equity in the property, that's going to be really, really hard to get a loan. But if you can go to the bank and you can show you control 40% of the total cost to build, and you've already paid all that, that's really hard for the bank to walk away from that, especially when you have good credit and everything else is working in your favor.
And they want minimum of 20.
Yeah, they want a minimum of 20, but when you can shoot for 25, 30, 40, it's in your favor, and the bank it's hard for them to say no to that. There's always you can do this. I know it's not different. It's different for all people. Some people can't chunk away as much as other people can, but at least you can move in that direction. I've dealt with a lot of people over the years, and the biggest hurdle is not the loan, it's the land. If you have to incorporate the land in the loan for a home and you only have 20% down, that's more risky for the bank. But if you come to the bank and you say, we bought this lot for $250,000, we've paid half of it off. We only want to build a home that's valued, a home for $315,000, but you don't have the whole lot paid off. Well, what they'll do is they'll use that equity in that lot as part of your down. And if you eventually pay it off, then you give that lot to the bank, and that becomes equity in the home, and they control the note on the lot, on the home site. So a lot of things, there's a lot of different ways to shake and bake this. But what you really want to do is once you have land, guess what you can do to that land? You can add value to that land, tons of value. You can bring water to it. You can make sure that the sewer is all hooked up, make sure you pay a water fee. You do all these things and you're suddenly increasing the value of that land. It's almost like putting money in a bank because you're improving the land. You have to think like a developer, and the developer looks at a piece of raw land out there and he says, that's a great place. That'd be a great facility for a community of whatever design. All right. And so they buy the land and then they go through all the process with the county or the city to get it platted. What does that mean? It means designed for a community, roads and infrastructure, curb and gutter and sewer and all that. They have it designed and approved, and they pay their nominal fee with regard to that plat. Then it's recorded, and all the city council member or the county commissioners sign that plat, and then it's recorded with the county. So now the county reads that piece of land as broken up into all kinds of pieces of parcels. All right. Now the value of that land is suddenly increased because somebody went through the headache of making sure that that was all recorded. Then you can, if you want, bring improvements to the property, bring sewer and water, and lift the pad, do some geotech on it, making sure you got a lot of stuff prepped. Now that's going to increase the value of the property. And then, of course, if you start to build, now you're going vertical, and again, more value brought to the property. The point I'm getting at is that once you know that land or that parcel that you want to build on, and you work to secure that as much as you possibly can. If not pay it off, you've got a good chunk on it, and you're paying it off as fast as you can. Then you can go to the bank and say, hey, I've got this, and here's my equity, and here's the appraised value, and here's what we want to build, and here's our budget, and we've got these things paid off, and you've documented that. That's really the stage approach. And the more you can do that, the better. Something else to consider, and we'll start taking some questions. And in order to kind of move through this process, there's two things to look out for. You want to talk with a realtor, and I'm going to let my wife talk about what it means to get a feed from a realtor, from an MLS service. And then I'm going to talk about something else here, but I'll let my wife talk about why it's important to know what the market is and how to get on an MLS service.
Okay. So yeah, you're going to have to, Keith, turn yours on. Okay. So you can just meet up with a realtor and have them send you an automatic feed of the house that you're building. They can do, when people are trying to sell a home, they have a CMA, it's a comparative market analysis. And so they take the homes that have sold in the area, and that's how you find what you should kind of start to sell the house for. So if you wanted to find out the value, and the appraisers usually use the same information. Utah's a non-disclosure state, so not all the information is on our MLS. And so if you happen to know that your neighbor's house sold, it was on the MLS, you can add that into your comps. But it's good to know what your house is going to be appraised for, have an idea, so you know where your 20% will be. Is that what you wanted me to talk about?
Yeah, what I wanted to talk about is getting a drip system. And so what you find a realtor you like, you trust, and you say, hey, can you get me on a drip? And a drip is going to showcase all the land that's going on the market every single day, and you're going to see it. You'll see how long it's been on the market. You'll see what its value is, or what they're trying to sell it for, and that kind of stuff. And the more that I'm going to
just turn yours on mute.
They can't hear me.
Yeah, they can. That's your speaker.
Oh, that's my speaker.
Just turn your speaker off, and we can both talk.
They hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I hope so. All right.
Give us a thumbs up. Can you hear both of us? We're working out this tech issue. Give us a yes, we can hear in the comments, so we know everything's going well.
If I'm muted, that means I'm muting you. Turn yours off real quick.
I am muted.
No, you're not.
I'm muted.
Okay. I don't think they can hear me when I'm mute because I'm muting myself.
No, that's your speaker. Your speaker is muted. So
let me give me a thumbs up. Somebody can hear me.
We got a thumbs up on Facebook. Good job.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I get tech freaked out. I'm used to being on a track. I know how that works. It's mechanical. and I can operate that. But when I get to stuff like this, I get confused. No, just get on a drip with a realtor, and you can see where the market is and see where things are selling for, how long they've been on the market for. But here's something to look forward to, and this was something I did with my very first build. My daughter came in, she showed me some land that she was very interested in that maybe we might be able to acquire, but they were originally selling it 0.80 of an acre for over $800,000. All right. But they went to the city and had it platted for 4 home sites. All right. Thinking that it's really worth that amount. But I ran the numbers with her and I said, all the underground, the curb and gutter, street, et cetera, that's going to be pretty pricey. And it's going to make it so we couldn't sell those lots for build jobs down the road. And now that piece of land is now, and they dropped the price to 600,000. Well, I looked at her and it's been on the market for over 100 days. And I go, it needs to drop closer to 300,000. All right. And you're going to see land prices do this, home prices do this sometimes. But we're going into a situation where prices are actually going to collapse, and you want to be able to be aware of that. Okay, so this is for all the people looking to buy some land. If you are looking to buy some land to build a home on, all right, be patient. Let that price settle to where it needs to settle for the moment, and then acquire it at that lowest point that you think it's really worth. You don't want to buy land that's very pricey, and then we're going into a decline, and you're gonna have to wait for a year or two in order for that price to climb back out of that trough. If you remember 2008 and the crash, 2009, 2010, 2011, things crashed really, really, really bad. But it took 3 to 4 years, even longer in a lot of markets, for that price point to reclaim what it had lost. And you don't want to be buying something in a slippery slope situation. You want to watch the market, watch where prices are. That's why you want to get on a drip, get a realtor to help you out, get on the multiple listing service in your area, and really watch where things are going. Don't listen to what a realtor will say. You never know if they're going to say something that you want to hear. Watch the market, look at prices, look at where they drop prices. So what I mean by the opportunity that's coming is you have the possibility of acquiring land with an owner finance agreement. So that means you don't have to go to the bank. It's a private agreement between you and the seller. Now, typically they can only do this if they own the land outright.
Yep, own it.
They can't really do this if they have it under contract with a bank. So there's a lot of land out there that people own, a lot of homes out there that people own, and they're just paid off, just sitting there listless, not really doing anything, and they could be listed for sale. And if nobody's buying that, offer to buy it as an owner finance rather than pay 7.5% interest. They say, I'll give you 6% or 5% if you owner finance this, and I'll have a balloon payment in whatever is comfortable for you in 2 years or 3 years or when we seek your financing. So what I'm getting at is that when there's a market that's going downwards, there's an opportunity. And right now, I think is one of the best opportunities to build in several years, because you see material costs down, lumber is down much farther down.
Workers, labor.
Labor is down. Mm-hmm. All these things are down, and when nobody else is building, and there's so many people out there hungry to work, you have the cream of the crop. I know it's counterintuitive, but the only way to secure yourself, protect yourself against any kind of loss is to know your market, know where things are, and watch those bottoms. As soon as they hit, or you think they need to hit based upon your market, that's a good time to buy some land. So
I want to add too, you do want a local agent, because I have there's agents up north, they don't know what's down south, and down south here we have soils issues. We have expansion and collapsible soils, but those agents up there, they don't know what we have. So it's good to use a local. All across the country, I'm sure you have some things that are just unique to your area. Just a point.
Okay. I just want to leave with one thing, and how do you calculate loan to value? And that is that you take the loan amount, say 150,000. Why is there an echo?
Turn it off.
Okay, I got it muted. You take what the loan amount that you want to take out, 150,000. Let's say the appraised value is $200,000, and you take the loan amount, you divide it by $200,000, and multiply the result by 100, and then that gives you your LTV, your loan to value ratio, which is 75%. So again, the loan amount divided by the value of the property, and hopefully the value of the property is higher than the loan amount. And then you divide the loan amount by the value, and you multiply that result by 100, and that gives you your ratio. All right. And that's just, you can look it online, just type in loan to value calculation. There's all kinds of mortgage calculators and loan to value calculators that are out there. And just a simple search on any search engine will help you get that information. So know your loan to value and what your target is. So let's start taking some questions real quick. Okay, hi, I'm in Denver, MSA. You mentioned the best time to break ground and put in a foundation is during the fall. Is it recommended to do earthwork during the fall and start the foundation around Marches? Right now is a good time to break ground with the Denver, your higher altitude there, and you have a shorter build season. So if you break ground, you're doing it now in the spring, which is kind of mid, early, late spring in that part of the world, probably early spring right now. You're going to have moisture in the ground. It's going to get easier to get compaction. You get all that done. You're out of the rainy winter season, and you're getting ready for the foundation. And I wouldn't do the foundation that late. I'd get that foundation in probably in July if you can, because if you can get that thing framed up and sealed up before the end of October, you've got it fully protected. And then you go into November, December with little weather. There's not much winter in November. It's just cold. That's a great time to do a lot of shell work, exterior work, get your interior started. And then during the winter, you can all do your finished stuff and let the outside sit. But here's a piece of advice. Before you go into winter time, okay, and you've got a build job, you want to get, if you have a septic, get it in before the winter, okay? And if you have any final grade on the property, get it done before the winter. Why? Because that final grade and that compaction is going to settle over the winter, and that's going to be just perfect for the next spring. The worst thing is to have to dig up all that again in the spring to put your septic, and then all that dirt doesn't settle. Winter's a great time for dirt to settle. Like I've got a job up north, and I'm looking to get the foundation in. As soon as I get that in, I'm going for the septic right away. So I can grade, and I can have scaffolding all the way around the building, and I can have compaction around that foundation. So I get going a little sooner than you probably think there.
I would just say it depends on where you're at. If you have your plans and all the pre-stuff done, then you can try and get your stuff done spring and summer. But if you're just barely in the planning process, wouldn't you say, honey? Like if you're just
ready to go.
Are you ready to go?
Yeah.
Let us know where you are in your process.
Okay, next one. Okay, SM Bill, question from SoCal on sill plate insulation. Good question. Besides applying sealant between the sill plate and the foundation wall, should we also seal between the sill plate and rim joists? Is that overkill? Just between the foundation and the wood structure is all you need to do with regard to sealing that. And there's a lot of products. I don't like the tape products. I've seen a lot of failure on tapes. There's no guarantee that they're going to stick for over a period of time. And when you have a blower door test, those tape products don't necessarily guarantee that they're going to hold air pressure. I like a liquid applied products. There's stuff in the tube. There's decking brush on material. There's all kinds of stuff, and I've done a lot of videos on that. I'll be coming up soon on a build where I will actually do that. But just again, between the foundation concrete and the wood structure, that section, and you only need to go up about 4 inches on the wood and about 3 or 4 inches on the concrete and seal that whole section right there. That's really all you need to do. Okay, next question. I'm in site planning at the moment. Boulder County in Colorado is super strict and takes a long time. Yeah, get that site planning done as soon as you can. They probably want grading plans and all kinds of stuff on there.
And then, yeah.
Okay, next question. Deb's camera, that's cool. Which accounting tool would you recommend for a dilly person?
DIY.
DIY, what's my dyslexia, DIY. If you know QuickBooks is not bad, you can get a home-based desktop version of QuickBooks, and that's not hard at all. You can set up your subcontractors in there, and you can pay it and track it and all that. However, the budget I've created, which is downloaded in the self-managed section, that will track all your draws, every payment and every draw, in a lot of detail, and so there's no cost there. And I would only go into a QuickBooks or some other situation if you felt like you were going to convert this into a business, or if you needed to have such a big. I have a woman who wants to build a fourplex, and she wants to create an LLC. And now it's different. Now you're going into a business enterprise, and you may want something with a little more robust service to it.
When we first built our first home, we were school teachers, and we just had a binder and then an Excel sheet. So if it's just your home, you can keep everything organized in a binder.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Yeah. That's just, you don't need to have that cost if you're not going to some elaborate business enterprise. Look at the budget, download it. You'll see, click on the second page. When you open it up, it's just the first 2 pages are the actual budget. And then down below, you'll see draws. Click on that, and it will go into an elaborate system where it's very easy to follow, and you plug in all the draws for that particular draw, and it tabulates everything for you. It's pretty clean. Okay, next question. Ray Trainer. That's cool. Retrainer. I'm in Virginia. What can typically be excluded to get a CO if I wanted to do finished work myself with either cash or with a cash out refi after the seasoning requirements are met for the new mortgage? What can be excluded from the CO? You want to talk to the building office? Literally a lot, except they will ask for some bare minimum. A kitchen, a working bathroom, things like that, so that it can be habitable. I'm doing a build up on the mountain, and there's a guy who's got Tyvek wrap on his home. That Tyvek wrap has been on his home for 1.5 years now. And he's got scaffolding up, but he hasn't done anything, and he's living in the home because the Tyvek is considered a protection against weathering of the home. But he hasn't finished it. I have another person who's got a CMU wall. It's an aerated concrete wall home. And he didn't do any exterior stucco on it for like 1.5 years. He's living in the home. He's now adding his exterior to the home. So you'd be amazed what you can get away with. And just talk with your building officials. They'll give you a clear answer on that. Follow-up question. What should I ask the county on the subject of minimum requirements for getting a CO? That exact same question. What do I need for minimum requirements for getting a CO? Okay.
Not sure what this question is.
Kevin Tui, much to add to cash price to owner finance.
I don't know what that question is.
How much to add to cash price to owner finance? Oh, that means if you want to put some cash down, if someone's going to owner finance, they're not going to do it without some amount of down payment. When I bought my first cul-de-sac lot, I built a home on it. The lot was $29,000. This is really dating me, but I put $5,000 down. And that gave him confidence that I could come through. He was then willing to subordinate the lot to the bank, and then the bank took possession of it. But we didn't pay him until the end of the build, which saved me on some interest because I didn't have to pay interest on $24,000 over the course of that build. And we closed on it, and then he got the rest of his money then. That's the power of subordination. They are willing to take land they own. You give them $5,000 down. They will give the land to the bank, subordinate it to the bank. They still carry the note on it, but they will subordinate it to the bank, which now means the bank really controls the note on it. And it's used as equity for the home. And then they'll pay that off when they get a CO. It's the last draw that comes out. Okay, question. EM, if you could start a new small build anywhere in the U.S., where would you choose based on finding a level lot and good buildable soil for a slab on grade foundation? Thanks. I'd be building in Colorado. There's particular reasons for that. Maybe I can't go into it here, but I like higher altitudes. The higher the altitude, the better I feel. And I maybe on the eastern slope of the Rockies, up and down that whole area, going down to Arizona and all the way up through Colorado and Montana. The problem is the further north you go, the harder it is to get subcontractors because there's not many people out there. I'd want to be not too metropolitan. I'd want to be at least 75 miles outside of a major metro area like Denver, which is not a very nice city. It's a very evil city, and I'll say no more. But if you get 75, 100 miles north, south, west of that, higher altitude, the better off. And slab on grade, that's a soils determination. You may end up going with a stem wall because the soils, you never know. Having a geotech report will say everything for you. But I like the Intermountain West just about anywhere. This is the new frontier, to be honest with you. America started in Boston, filled up the colonies, and Boston was the power center of the world, especially of the country. Then it moved to Detroit. That was in the whole Midwest area, just especially up by the Great Lakes. That just grew enormously. And then it became California, a major gold rush, and then the tech rush after that. And California just ballooned. And now nobody wants to live in those areas anymore, especially on the West Coast, going all the way up to Seattle, Portland, all the way to California. It's so costly to live. There's a rebound effect, and it's happening in the Intermountain West, which is Idaho, Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and all the way down into Texas. This is where there's some massive growth. And then, of course, you add Florida, which is kind of a caveat out there in the East Coast. For those who can't go all the way west, they just go south. And so those are where the growths are taking place: jobs, opportunity, housing, communities, new communities, that kind of thing. So that's my big take on it. Abdullah El Naida. Hi, Keith. I'm 20 years old and I want to become a construction business owner. Where should I start? Start with the trade. I've mentioned this a couple times. And there's two trades you want to get your feet wet in. One of them mechanical, plumbing, electrical, and HVAC. Choose one of those and work in it for a year, 6 months, a year, and then go into framing, excavation, or concrete. One of those two trades, and do that for 6 months or to a year if you can. Start here first, then go into mechanical, because you'll appreciate it, because this is harder labor, backbreaking labor, but it teaches you everything about foundational work. And then go into the specialty trades, the mechanical trades, and that's going to teach you a real thinking trade. And if you come out of that with those two experiences, you're going to be a much, much better builder. And if you have some carpentry experience on top of all that, great. That's my advice. Okay, CMAC, Porzer. I'm an individual residential basic general contractor. I've just registered a limited liability company. Can I switch my license to get agent license and use under my new company? And how can I do that? Do you mean a real estate agent? I'm not sure what you mean by that. I have just registered. Can I switch my license to agent license? That might be something different in your state. Agent license might be something different in your state. So I'm not quite sure what you're asking there. In my state, there's B100 and B this, B that. Some of us can build commercial. Some of us can only build residential. It might be something that you're talking about there. I don't know. I don't know what agent license means. You'll have to.
You could talk about LLC and S corps if you want.
If you're doing an LLC, if you're not doing much work, keep it as an LLC. But if you do more work, change to an S corp. And if you're talking about an agent, yeah, that's a good question. You probably want to talk to a tax person about whether or not you can do, if it's real estate license and general contractor license, or if you should separate them. It depends on what you're doing too, if you're doing flips or if you're just building. But talk to your accountant, your CPA.
Yeah, next question. Okay, Victor P. Hey, Keith, can we build our second house within the 1 year time for owner builders? We have 3 lots, but have not subdivided yet, just one address. It might take about a month and a half to do the subdivision with the county. The other thing to do, and I'm on the planning commission with my county, so I see a lot of stuff come through. And a gentleman actually has a home and he has a business on the lot next door, and he wanted to get a business license for his business in a residential area. Well, they required him to combine the two parcels into one, and then to other things, landscape issues they made him do as well. So you could actually build on the parcel, but make sure you build so in a way where you can separate those other parcels out. And here's why, well, it might be hard to do it that way because the bank's not going to let go of the other two parcels. You're going to want to separate those parcels before you go to the bank. And that way, when you go to the bank, you can say, here's the parcel I want to build on, here's its value. And then you want to keep their hands off because they may want to get their hands on those other parcels. Just mention them maybe as an asset, but say that they're not part of the process of the loan. You're not using them as collateral against the loan. You're only using the one parcel you subdivided. That could take a month to 2 to 3 months to get that done. So I'd jump on that. So Bodkin Koladisks, I hope I said that right. I'm butchering names tonight. I'm sorry. Does grading come first if you're doing a full day light basement? Yep. Yeah, you're gonna have to excavation first, dig it out, compact if there's some compaction requirements, and then grade that. So you can't build without doing your excavation. So grading meaning that you grub the land, get rid of the excess organic matter, and then of course you do your excavation. So tacos for us. How much should I budget for structural engineer on a simple home, nothing gigantic or fancy? It depends on where you're building. If you're in the outskirts of Texas, it's going to be pretty affordable. But if you're building in Oceanside, California, it's not going to be affordable because Oceanside city permitting is going to require all kinds of seismic and whatever, all kinds of stuff that the engineer has to deal with. But if it's not complicated, then typically it could be $1.50 to $2 a square foot for engineering. If you're in the program, I have designers, architects, and an engineer, several engineers. Just check out Jeff Hedman. He's one of my own engineer. If it's a simple build like that, reach out to him. All the contact information is there. And I have 2 other engineers. With all the engineers I have, we have actually 3 engineers in the program that you have access to, and they're all licensed in every state. So check them out, and they're all pretty affordable. It's in the download section. SM Bill, learn something from my plumber. The plumbing parts can vary in price greatly. One made overseas can cost 1/4 of the same connector made in US. How can we, as owner builders, get bids to such details? Well, when it comes to plumbing, you can ask the plumber to include all that, or you can buy all that in advance and then have the valve structure that he needs to do the rough ready to go and say, here's the showers that I bought, and here's what I want you to install. And he'll take the cartridges and the valves and put those in, and then he'll do the finish later on. It depends on how much of a headache you want. And if you want to take that on and buy all that stuff in advance, or just go to a showroom, it could be Standard Plumbing, could be Ferguson. There's Mike's Place. There's all these different supply houses you can go to. Pick everything you want and say to the plumber, all the hardware I want is available at this outlet. All right, I've already got an account, set it up. When you go there and you're ready to do the rough, ask for all the parts you need for the Joe Simerson build or the Kelsch build or whatever it may be. So and if you take control of it, you can save some costs there. But if you just leave it all up to your plumber, most plumbers will just say, I'll give you an allowance for a tub, an allowance for a toilet, and I'll give you an allowance for all these pieces of hardware. And then you still have to go select it, but you have to stay within that budget. So, Ricky Sherman, I need to add 8 feet of fill dirt. Will a 10-ton roller compact enough to build on? You're going to have to do it at 1-foot lifts. So if you have 8 feet, you're going to do compactions typically every 6 to 12 inches, whatever the geotech requires. Read your geotech report. It's going to ask or tell you that you're going to have a compaction test at this lift or at this lift. What is each lift? Is a lift 12 inches a foot, or is it 10 inches? The soils test is going to tell you all that. And then after each compaction, then you can fill it, roll it, fill it, roll it. And here's a trick, and this might save you some money. This is a really good piece of advice. If you've got an 8-foot overX and you're going to do compactions on that, a good geotech who's got some experience, they will allow you to lift it once, actually lift it twice, or even 3 times in one day. And then they come at the end of the day and you leave a section at the 1 foot mark open where they can compaction test. You leave another random section open that's a foot down or 2 feet down for that compaction test. And then a top one, they can do a compaction test. It's just about anywhere. I did that this morning. I had my geotech arrive. They did compaction tests for 2 lifts, and I left 2 random sections open that were a foot down, little areas about that big for the test. And they did the test and did the test. So it's either that or they come back the next day, and the next day they charge you all that travel time to come up to your job site. And if you can get it all done at once, ask them if they can do that. If they can do that, that's the savings to you. You can save a couple $100 that way. Okay. Low Coco 21, using a HELOC to start putting in utilities, a bad or good idea? Is it on the site? Are you doing a HELOC on the home or just doing a HELOC for another parcel? You're robbing Peter to pay Paul. Depends on the finances. The good thing is that if, let's say you're living in a home and you get a HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit on this home, and you're getting maybe $6,000 or $7,000 to do some utilities on another parcel, you are now improving that parcel. You're improving the valuation of that parcel. And if you can pay off the HELOC fast, great. But my recommendation is to save up the money, put the utilities in, and you're not paying any interest on that. And that's a better return on your investment. So go ahead.
Because the HELOC is also going to hurt you on your loan if you have to keep that there, because it will be debt to income that's going to hold you back, and lending is getting tighter. So you want to be careful not to use other credit cards or anything to get that kind of stuff. Yeah, save up the cash, sell something.
Yeah, avoid the excess debt because that's not going to look good down the road. If you can piecemeal it, all power to you. And to be honest with you, utilities aren't that much. It depends on the utility. If you have to pay a water fee, and go after one at a time. If you get the water, septic, permits, stuff like that, the more you can chunk away and go add them up and find out which one's the one you can get at first, and then go to the next one, etc. So JD ist comp 1042. 1040. Gotcha. Roger out. Is it possible to paint interior and exterior doors with a brush and roller and still look okay instead of using a sprayer? No, not really. I wouldn't recommend it. A roller is good after a spray. You can try it. I've never seen anyone try to roll a door and brush a door. It just doesn't go on right.
Don't do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't try to do that. If you can rent paint sprayers pretty quick and spray it and tape it off just right. It's not something I'd recommend. It won't come out the way you want it. Okay. I'm not going to say that name again. JDist Comp 1042. I'm going to be working on a rental property garage conversion and financing with a HELOC. Can I write off the interest on my taxes when it's complete? Thanks. Yes, you can.
Double check with your CPA.
Double check with your CPA. We're not accountants, but that's what we've done. I can only tell you what we've done, especially if you have an LLC that you've created and you're running everything through an LLC. Okay. Next question. Lovely Beauties Reborns. So great. What's the best way to approach a neighbor about shaping up their trees that overhang on easement? Should I offer to do the work? Don't offer to do the work. Ask them to do it. And if they don't do it, say, can I hire someone to do it? And I'll send you the invoice to you. And if they're non-cooperative and they're not doing this, then just go cut it down. Get a ladder, and if it's overhanging, just trim it off. But ask them if they can do that. Please do this. It's impeding my easement, my access. And if they don't do it, say, can we hire someone to do it? Can you hire someone to do it? If not, I will hire someone for you. Because that's a lot of work. You don't want to do their responsibility. You really need to put it on them as much as you can.
But if they're not, yes.
All right.
Okay, I don't know this one.
What are your thoughts on buying finishing materials from? I've met with several companies that can work off of my plans. Finishing materials, base, case, trim, doors, window casements, stuff like that. There's a lot of companies out there. We just produced a really cool video that's going to go out in about a week or two on window casements, and that's a finished product. But all the box stores have them. A lot of the lumber yards, if they don't specialize in finished products, they typically can get access to them. So
Buying finishing materials from. What are your thoughts?
I get my finished materials, even my hardware, from a builder supply store here in town. I just tell them the grade I want, and they send everything to me. I don't have to go to a box store. The reason why builders use supply houses and lumber yards is because even though there's a little bit of a markup, they have all that customer service. They have all the follow through. I tell a guy, I call him up at the lumber yard. I go, hey, Parker, XYZ job is ready. You've got the address. Go measure for doors, base, case, shelving, all that. Go measure it and give me the material. I'm ready to rock and roll. And you can't do that with a box store. You can't call a box store and say, hey, I need XYZ casements and doors and all that. And can you go measure for me and have it delivered? It's not as easy. That's why supply houses are just really, really good ones, have a lot of customer service, and they're worth their weight in gold. Honey Cafina, what thoughts can you share about a water cistern above ground, about 3 feet wide by 10 feet long, 4 feet high, built with cement blocks on a casement slab or sand base and pond liners, well water?
Yeah, the well water flow is low and requires a cistern.
Okay.
It's
just you don't want to have to pump to put the water in. That's the only problem with it being above ground, or if it's above ground but it's still lower than where it's draining from. And so if you don't have to have a pump to pump it in there, all the better. It's all gravity fed. That's what you want. If it's not gravity fed, then you're going to have a problem to pump water up into that cistern. But as far as a sand base, you want that tank to just settle in there and shimmy on there. And I just did one myself, and I put sand around it. I wetted it down, and the whole sand just sunk right around that whole tank. And then when the next rainstorm came, it finished it off. It all collapsed around there, and it's now solid in the ground. But sand base and pond liners, possibly a pond liner. But then it's you got the potential of dirt and dust constantly blowing into that basin. And then it fills up with dirt and muck. And then pretty soon over a period of time, you got an inch or something of muck at the bottom of that pond. And so if you can have it enclosed tank, all the better. You're not going to run into that. Roaming realtor. First question, is the cost of concrete up or down right now? Second question, you mentioned land costs going down this year. Would you recommend flipping land instead of single family home? Thank you. That's a really good question. Concrete is going down. Concrete was really pricey for a while because China was taking all the Portland cement. Their building that they were taking place in China was just insane. So they were demanding a lot of our Portland cement. And plus, there were a couple of fires, and major suppliers or manufacturers, plants, were down for about 8 months or 9 months. And it really put a pinch on concrete. Well, that's no longer the case right now. Watch supply lines. And that really affected concrete in my neck of the woods. In fact, it was so bad for about 3 months that everybody was on a quota. And you had to be meet your quota, meaning there's some big builders that were doing 15 homes a month or whatever, and they got limited to half that. And so that's not the case now. And concrete just shot through the roof. But that's not the case right now. So concrete has gone down from that period of time back in 2001, 2022. And then flipping the land, you don't need know that now, you could add the value to the land and then decide, hey man, land prices just went bonkers in my area. I did all these improvements to it. I'm just going to liquidate the land and use that and roll it into something else. Or if that's not the case, then you can choose to build on it. But that's the neat thing about land development is that you can buy land that's raw, do one improvement to it. You could grub it and clean it. Now it looks pretty. Now it can sell for more. Or you can be power and water and gas and all these things to it. Or you can grade it, get it ready. Or you can do geotech analysis to it. Or you can get a septic permit paid for an excess of 4 bedrooms. You can do all these things to that land and exit whenever you want if you think the market can hold the price that you want for it.
Yeah, every market's going to be different. Like ours right now, getting land is really hard to get. So really the money where people are making money with land is finding it raw and then creating the plan, getting it approved with the city or county, and then reselling it with the plans.
Right. Yeah. So study your market. That's what I said at the beginning of the show today, of the live chat. Make sure that you get a drip system, you know, the market, you know, how much things are selling for, that kind of thing. Okay. MJ Peach, I don't know if I can, I'll butcher that. I'll just call it MJ. Is $3 a square foot divided by 2 square foot for a garage for detailing drawings worth it from a draftsman person? That's a little bit on the high side. My draftsmen locally are $1.25, $1.50 a square foot. That's a little high, but it's not bad. I would suspect that I would pay almost that for engineering, but drafts person, that's not bad, to be honest with you. Throughout the nation, I've seen it much higher. Bogdan, I forgot to add something to my question. What are your thoughts on getting finishing materials from China? They can work off of my plans. Oh, China. No. China, you don't know what you're going to get. You have absolutely no idea what you're going to get. A couple of years ago, China was selling drywall at just a huge discount, just cheap. And then it had problems in the drywall. It had toxic things in the drywall, and big builders bought into it and had some serious problems with the drywall. So it's like baby formula. Would you buy baby formula from China? Well, that was a big issue back in the day. Unless it's a proven company in China that's been around for a long time, that you know, that you can verify, the answer is I wouldn't gamble that. I did have a student of mine bought triple pane windows from China at a serious discount, but it took forever for them to get over here. And then he had to pay a huge excise fee coming into the country because they will list things for this price online. It could be Alibaba or some other Chinese site that's equal to Amazon.com. And then they say, here's the price, but they'll see down here transportation or shipping costs, which could be double this price or triple that price. And then it may not include the import tax. And if you don't have that in mind and know exactly what the import tax is, you could be surprised that your stuff could be in a container in the harbor somewhere, and you can't get it because the taxes have not been paid, and got another surprise. So it's just so far away, and it's a gamble, and it's something you really have to tread on lightly in order to try to save some money. Hype Stonks. Hello, Hype. Hi, Keith. We just finished. Concrete prices went up in the beginning of the year here in Florida. That's because you got a massive bill going on in Florida. Florida and Texas, just crazy, and the Intermountain West. So, yeah, watch your prices there. I was speaking to an ABC supply rep, and concrete tiles are going up 10% in July. Shingles are going up again as well. July is a hot month for price increases, January and July. Okay. Those are your times when price increases happen. It used to be that price increases would happen every July only, but now they happen in January and July. And then sometimes I see a price hike sometimes in the late fall. If gas prices go up in the fall, if they go up, you'll see price increases on materials. But if gas prices maintain their traditional average where they go down in the fall, then that's not going to affect typically a price increase. Watch the cost of gas and oil. That's a big determiner on the price of materials. And why is it going up in July? What happens every year in the summer? Gas prices shoot through the roof. All right, just keep that in mind. And if you can beat these time frames to avoid price increases, especially on big ticket items where you're spending $10,000 on material, you want to watch that stuff. Mike Kiger, just about done with drawing in our build cool. Congratulations. When the framers began, they noticed 4 plumbing drains are not lined up correctly in the foundation slab on grade. Should the plumber fix that at no cost? Yes, the plumber. If the foundation was properly square, and if it was tested and verified that it was square, then they should come in and fix that. Now, what do I mean by square? Let's say that this is your slab on grade. All right, you take a tape measure and you measure from this corner to that corner. All right, and then you write it down. Get as accurate as you can within an 1/8 of an inch. Then you take another tape measure from this corner to this corner, and you measure that. And if it's the exact same,
You did the same corners to corners.
oh, from one to here, and then from here to there. And so if they're the exact same measurement, you're square, and they should easily pull their lines from those forms. But if it wasn't square, in my program, it shows you on how to measure for square. And especially in the flow chart, measure for square. And if it's done right and everything's plumb and level and square, then they should have no reason, no problem at all hitting those walls. So they should cut that out, dig down, redo the line, and make them do a headwater pressure test. And what is that? They plug up the line on the outside just by the clean out. They plug it with a diaphragm. They fill it up with air. They put water in your vent that's going up out through the foundation somewhere. And you test that before they fill it up with concrete after they've moved the line. I've seen situations where people, I went on a job site to my brother-in-law years ago, and everything passed the inspection. They came and moved a line because it wasn't done right. It was in the wrong spot. And I saw it leaking after they had fixed it. And had they not fixed it after the leak, that leak would have been there forever, leaking under your foundation. All right. So if they do any changes like that, ask for an additional headwater pressure test, which is just a gravity test at 10 feet up or 12 feet up. And then you make sure there's no leak and you're good under your foundation. The worst nightmare you could have on a home is to have a water line or a drain line leaking under your foundation. Absolute worst. I did a home restoration 10 years ago, close to that. And they had a gray pipe under the foundation that broke, and it started to leak. And the entire home shifted like that, almost by 3 feet, 3 inches. It just fell. And they were going to condemn the home. And I did the impossible, and I dug down, tied the whole thing with rebar, and then filled it and went down 2 feet with rebar and just filled in new concrete, shaved it off on one side. And because I said to him, the client, I'll do this if the water's not run under the slab again. It's gone overhead. And they did it overhead through the attics. And therefore, we were able to save the home. But that's scary. And that's why, and the water line was not put in a sleeve. It was straight gray pipe. So it got pinched on a rock when the slab was settling and it started to break. Make sure you put all your pipe in a sleeve, PEX in a sleeve. Say that to yourself as you dream tonight, PEX in a sleeve, and you can avoid that nightmare. 2 cents. It sounds like I'm going to have a 270-foot driveway, 15% grade. Does that sound like the worst thing in the world? Any idea what a heated driveway that length would cost? I'm in Connecticut. Yeah, a couple thoughts. When you're on a freeway and it has a sign over there and it warning 8% grade, all right, that's really steep for a truck that's going 55 miles an hour with a huge load on it. It means it's going to take an enormous amount of time for that truck to slow down and stop. Okay. Now 15% grade and you've got snow on it and you're coming down that grade, you're not going to be able to stop. All right. Now, as to your second question, that's pricey. I just did a job up in Park City about 6-7 years ago, where we did an entire drive in it was cobblestone and pavers, and underneath that we had a heating system for the driveway, and that was about $80,000. And it was a coolant system inside the house that shoved heated antifreeze in pipes that heated up the entire drive. Now that drive was about a 6.5 to 7% grade, but 15% grade is pretty insane. If you don't have the heated drive, it could be unsafe, especially in cold weather where you are, where it could just, you'd be sliding down that hill and won't be able to stop. Now, there are some other systems that are not liquid heat, like a boiler system. They're an electric system. And all you really need is a track like 2 feet here and another track 2 feet down there, and have that electric system. And they manufacture those in the state of Utah. Just look for under concrete defrosting system. They're electric, and you just put them in a whole grid all the way down, and you flip that switch, or it comes on automatically with a certain temperature. There's thermostats you can put out that would determine that, and that would keep that. It only takes about an hour. And then once it's all melted and gone, you can turn it off. But yeah, that's 15%. It's pretty insane. I once had an opportunity to build a multi-million-dollar home, and the client liked me. He showed me the plans, and I before I did a budget, I had a sit down with him, and I says, "Do you know you have almost an 18% grade difference between the entrance of the drive to the garage?" He goes, "Please explain." I go, "When you back out of your garage, you're going to have to put your foot on the door of the car just to hold it open." And he goes, "You're kidding." I go, "No." "And are you aware of this?" He started to swear and cuss. And he goes, "I just paid all these monies to this architect." He goes, show me on the plan." I go, "Here's your elevation of your pad, and here's the elevation of the street." And the change in elevation was an 18% grade. It was pretty insane. And I didn't get the job. I would have loved to have built the home, but because I spotted that and showed it to him, he canceled the build, and I didn't get it. So the things you can not say and say to clients, it's pretty amazing what goes on in the industry. So, okay, next question.
That's it.
Oh, great. I could go on forever this tonight. I've had some fun with talking with you folks. Again, we'll be here next Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I think I'm the only general contractor doing live chat every Thursday or anytime during the week. I love it. I learn a lot from people. I learn a lot about your environments, your weather, your markets. It's really fun. I really enjoy it, and I get a lot of information. And then I take notes down, and I have a couple of feature posts that I can possibly do on a lot of this. So we'll be here next week. And if, again, you're an owner builder thinking about being an owner builder, go to howtobuildyourownhome.com. Take the first steps course. Take it. There's a formula in there. It's going to help you understand cost per square foot. And it's just baby steps. It's like, what's that movie with Bill Murray in it? What About Bob? All right. Baby steps. And that's how you build a knowledge base. I'm going to go learn this, then I'm going to go learn that, then I'm going to learn that. And as you start to learn it all, you build a knowledge base and you become an owner builder. And it's extremely powerful. You're going to learn a lot. I'm excited. So see you guys next Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time.
And make sure you subscribe and send us pictures. Tag us.
Yeah, subscribe and tag. That'd be great.